Right now it's 52.
You're never more than a few minutes from a weather update here on Super Talk 1270.
Welcome to Community Talk, a public affairs presentation of the MSA United Way and Super Talk 1270. Now your host, Jena Gullo.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us at United Way's Community Talk. I'm Jena Gullo, the Executive Director of the MSA United Way, and co-hosting with me today, Mr. Scott Hansen. Woo! Hi, Scott.
I'm glad to be here.
Thanks for setting on these shows up, and a special thank you to Town Square Media and Jimbo Walsh in studio with us, helping us to do this every other week. You can find us here every other Tuesday from 11 to 12. And what we try to do is really highlight issues that are important to you and to our community. So if you do have issues, questions, comments, let us know. Go on Facebook. Where can they find us, Scott?
Facebook.com/MSAUWay. We're also on Twitter at MSA United Way. We're online, msaunitedway.org, or just give us a call and we'll chat about what you want to hear about on the radio. 255-3601 is our number.
We are here to serve. Scott lined up a great show for you today. We will be speaking later in the show with Ms. Diane Zainhofsky, a saint in her own right, the executive director of the Abused Adult Resource Center. They just had a fantastic showing last night for Take Back the Night. And we're going to be talking about issues in our community, domestic violence, child abuse, what we as a community can do to respond to those needs and also to prevent a lot of the work or prevent a lot of those issues from occurring in the first place.
Exactly.
What we do at our United Way, we'll talk just a little bit for this first segment about some things going on, how you can get more involved, but we try to take a proactive approach. So today I was just speaking with Mandan Public School administrators, and it's so great to have their support. They actually beat Bismarck Public Schools in their campaign last year. Tamara Uzelman, the superintendent, had to wear the Mandan school colors at one of their sporting events. It was pretty fun. But we just had a nice dialogue about, what are the things they're seeing and they're needing in their community, and how can United Way support those needs.
Great. Yeah, it's so important to have those community discussions and talk with those people who are on the ground. Jena, tell us a little bit about the backpack program. Now, that's something that kind of came out of similar discussions last year.
Yeah, well, actually, the Bismarck Public School nurses were noticing that kids were getting dizzy on Mondays usually, that teachers noticed they particularly weren't able to concentrate Monday mornings. And it was more so than it just being our normal Monday morning struggle, getting back into the grind of things. The kids weren't eating over the weekend. And I do foster care, so there have been a number of times where kids are brought to me on a Saturday night and haven't eaten since Friday at lunchtime. And this is in Bismarck and Mandan. So United Way's Women's Leadership Circle looked into this, and they found that the backpack program was only operating every other weekend. And United Way started a backpack program, so now we fill that gap in the community. We have businesses that sponsor a weekend. It's only $2,000, and they can sponsor a weekend of up to 500 backpacks so that kids in Bismarck and Mandan elementary schools are well-nourished while they're not in school.
That's great. And volunteers, too. We're always looking for volunteers, too. So if you or your business is interested in volunteering, packing bags or delivering bags, give us a call at the office at 255-3601 or check out volunteerbizman.com. And there are a wide variety of volunteer opportunities on there, so I'd encourage everyone to check that out.
Walk the listener through, how do you check that out, and how do you receive notifications?
Yeah, it's real easy. You just simply log on to volunteerbizman.com. You can browse a wide variety of in-kind and volunteer opportunities from a number of different organizations in the community. If there's one specific agency you like, you become a fan of that, and you just simply click Become a Fan of this agency, and you'll receive automated updates in your email inbox anytime they post a new need. So say they need a refrigerator. Just 2 weeks ago, we had an agency call and say, hey, can you help us find a refrigerator? We posted it up on there. Within 2 days, we had a response.
No kidding. Was that the homeless coordinator from Bismarck Public Schools that asked for that?
It was, yes.
Oh, I'm so happy.
Yeah.
I'm so happy to hear that. I wasn't sure how that ended up. And the school counselors will contact us regularly and let us know we need a size 10 and a size 12 winter coat for girls at our elementary school. We need gloves. Honest to God, true story. Last night we were called because there is a woman with 3 children who have been living in their car, and the car has no heater. And so our community responded. We were able to put them up in a hotel room for one night, but now we have case managers that are trying to help more stable, to secure more stable long-term and affordable housing for that family. It's difficult. If our community doesn't have that capacity to respond, and that's what United Way is doing, trying to get at the root causes of a lot of these issues. And we send case managers now into the homes of many of our at-risk families for Bismarck and Mandan public schools, and try to prevent them from becoming homeless in the first place.
And that's how we found out about that need, correct?
Yeah, that was through Neighbors Network. One of the case managers that social workers and teachers can identify a student in need. And it could be something as simple as that child isn't able to concentrate, or that child looks dirty or is falling asleep during class. And if we can't teach and provide that loving environment, and also take that opportunity to make sure that child has stable housing, that they're getting the access to the mental health counseling. I mean, all of this can't fall on the schools alone. The community has to respond, and it has to be in a coordinated and efficient way, or else we're just throwing money at issues. So that's why our United Way board is they're very, very good stewards of our donor dollars and making sure that the dollars go where they're needed the most.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we got to go to break here real quick, but let's talk about some upcoming events. Little Black Dress. That'll be a brand new event put on by our
Are you going to participate?
Women's Leadership Circle.
You should participate, Mr. Hansen.
I don't know that I'm allowed to participate, but it is for a great cause. So,
well, our Women's Leadership Circle, that's where women give $500 or more on their own. And then they are a very active group. They've actually adopted Saxvik Elementary in Bismarck. So they are now going in and providing tutors, mentors, readers to children in need there. They're putting on a phenomenal event called the Little Black Dress. This is where over 50 women in the community will be wearing one of their black dresses, similar to what I'm wearing today, and they have to wear the dress every day to work for 1 week. And they can accessorize it. They can put scarves. They can change their earrings. They can put belts on. But they have to wear that same dress. And it's to symbolize how so many of our families are struggling with not having enough money to buy multiple work outfits, and struggling with transportation and just getting to and from work. But how so many women in our community are trying to make ends meet and provide for their children. And so those dresses at the end of the week will then be dry cleaned, and they will be donated to our clients in our community that are working women. So the women wearing the black dress will each raise at least $500. So hopefully there's some folks in your business that will be participating, and you can donate to help them out. It all goes to a great cause to help education and to help provide income stability for people who need it the most. We will be right back in just a couple minutes. You are listening to United Way's Community Talk on Super Talk 1270.
Right now it's 52.
Get the traffic and weather information you need anytime on Super Talk 1270 and online at supertalk1270.com.
Welcome back to United Way's Community Talk. I am Jena Gullo, your host today, and co-hosting with me, Mr. Hansen from the MSA United Way, located here in Bismarck, Mandan.
Glad to be here.
Thanks for having you.
That's my only response to that question.
For being here. Had a fun first segment here, talking about all the updates. I do want to mention to our listeners that October 26th, we have our annual United Way Pancake Breakfast. It is at St. Mary's Central High School. We hope that people come out, volunteer. If you have young children, bring them too. It's a lot of fun. They can help to clean off dishes and serve people and just smile and wear the Live United t-shirt, show their support. So it's a free will offering, St. Mary's Central High School, October 26th. So, Ms. Erickson, we are graced with your presence.
Sure.
Michelle Erickson from the Abused Adult Resource Center. I've known you, I feel like, almost the whole time I've lived in North Dakota, which will be 10 years in February.
Pretty close.
And I just have to say thank you for everything you do at the Abused Adult Resource Center, everything you do for our local homeless coalition. You're just a great mom. You're a great person. I almost called you Diane. Diane was going to be here, but she was caught up, Diane Zainhovsky. What's going on over there?
We're busy as usual. October is a nationwide domestic violence awareness month. So we have several events going on, as well as just handling the day-to-day crises in our community.
So last night, we celebrated Take Back the Night.
Yes, we did. We started out with a kind of a silent awareness in front of the Capitol building and held signs with statistics about domestic violence on it. And then we had a local woman here, Sandra Bursay, that did a smudge for us. And
What is a smudge?
Smudge. It's a Native American tradition with sage that basically cleanses you and your area and your thoughts and feelings. And she just walked around with burning sage, and we all partook in that. And then we had a program over at McCabe Methodist Church.
That is so nice. How many people showed up, would you say?
I would say probably about 75.
No kidding.
Yeah, so
Phenomenal.
it's a good turnout. Yep.
That's so nice. And so then the program, what'd that entail?
We had Wayne Stenjum, who's an amazing supporter of us. He spoke.
Our Attorney General.
Yeah, he spoke for us. And then we had some special music. We had some survivors share their stories. And it was just a powerful evening for everybody.
What do you hope people walk away with from an event like that?
Oh, I would hope they would walk away with just the feeling of wanting to help and understand that victims don't need to deal with the abuse alone and behind closed doors, and that they can get help, and there's resources in the community to help them get out of those situations.
And that's so important, because the folks that I have had experience with that have been in that situation, it's incredibly isolating for them.
Yes, it can be. Absolutely. I think that they feel like there's no other options and they can't leave. And I think once they talk with us, we can offer them things like shelter and financial assistance and help finding jobs and going back to school, and they can see that there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
So talk to us about Pam's House, one of our United Way supported programs, and tell our listeners what it is and what you do.
Okay. Of course, we were extremely grateful and appreciative of all the help United Way gives us. And I think a lot of the agencies in the community network together, and that's what makes United Way and all the support so fantastic in this community. But Pam's House is our emergency shelter, and we can hold about 38 women and children in there. And we are generally full all the time. With the oil impact in the state the last couple of years, between Pam's House and our Diane Zainhovsky Hope House, which is our transitional shelter, we're housing about 50 to 60 women and children every night.
Wow. Isn't that phenomenal? But phenomenal that you have the capacity to help that many women and children. So what's a typical day? And I know there probably isn't any typical day, but what is a typical day at Pam's House? If you're a caseworker there, talk to us about it.
Well, a typical day, I suppose, would be that if there's a typical day, just helping the women either acclimate to living in a shelter or help them get signed up for benefits, housing assistance. If they want to apply for jobs, we'll take them to get applications. We also have an educational program called New Directions, so we'll work with women on how to build a resume, how to interview, how to dress for an interview, just kind of building their self-esteem and helping them, become more independent and be able to live on their own and be free from a violent situation.
And are there many times where it's not just that domestic violence incident that they're dealing with? Are there underlying issues?
Oh, absolutely. I think there's financial issues, there's housing issues, there might be, some addiction issues from just learning how to self-medicate yourself to get through those situations. But we'll try to get people connected to whatever resources they can, and what we can't help with, we'll find somebody that can.
How do people reach out to you if they're in a situation, they're home listening right now, and they just don't know, is it safe to get in touch with you? Will their spouse or significant other find out? Is it at that level? Maybe it's not physical, could be verbal abuse. Do they still have the right to be helped by you?
Absolutely. We have a 24-hour crisis line, 866-341-7009. And that is staffed 24/7 by all of our, by an advocate. And if it's verbal, emotional, if you're just not sure if it's abuse, we will talk to anybody and see what we can do with them. Safety planning is a big thing that we do, just crisis intervention, shelter. Our office is open Monday through Friday. Basically, you can get in touch with us several ways, through our website, our Facebook page, however works for that person.
So, Michelle, what is that crisis hotline number again?
It's 866-341-7009.
866-341-7009. If you're listening out there and you need help, that's the number to call. If you just need someone to talk to help point you in the right direction, Abuse Adult Resource Center will help to do that for you. So what can people do to prevent domestic violence from occurring in the first place?
I don't know that you can prevent it. I think you can get involved to help. And I think that's a part that people are scared to do sometimes when they see a situation at a bar or the mall or whatever, and they feel like it's not right, but they're not sure whether they should do anything. Just get involved. If it's safe to get involved and help that person, then do it. I think, you can volunteer at our office to help. We also have the Seeds of Hope thrift store that always needs volunteers.
I was just at a function this weekend and met one of your wonderful volunteers down at Seeds of Hope, and we're talking about what a great opportunity it is, and how many clients come in where you just give away a lot of that clothing as well, and a lot of not just the clothing, but sometimes needs for new apartments and new households, and yes, how people know that they can turn to the Abuse Adult Resource Center if they have a client in need.
Yes, and I think it's important to know that all of our proceeds from Seeds of Hope go back into our programming. So a lot of the, even though we're giving away things, those things are all going to victims, as well as the funding going back in to help staff our agency and, other costs involved.
So I actually just recently dealt with a situation where I got an emergency call from Burley County Social Services for children whose mother, they had been staying at one of the local shelters in town. And when a local church went to drop them back off at the shelter, the mother wasn't there. And so these kids have now been in foster care, and they're at a permanent foster home right now. So what happens in that situation? I imagine if they're living, and does that happen often? And what do you at ARC do when a situation like that arises?
At our shelter, I don't think it happens often. We encourage the moms to spend as much time with the kids as they can, and we set up their, whether it's their busing schedule or taxis bringing them from school or daycare, we help with transportation so that the moms can be part of that daily life and not rely on another agency to give them all that help. So at our shelter, I don't believe it happens that often. But, in our case, we would probably take the kids and then get a hold of mom, and she'd come back if it was something like that.
Mm-hmm. And you do a lot of supervised visitations as well.
We do. We do supervised parenting time and supervised exchanges, as well as supervised phone calls at our Family Safety Center for parents that might not be able to get along or can be in the presence of each other. And so those are court ordered or referred by the social worker or themselves, just so that we can do it safely and have healthy parenting time for kids.
So tell us just a little bit about Hope House, because you do so much more than just that emergency assistance. Hope House is looking at the long term.
Correct. Our transitional shelter, the Diane Zainhofsky Hope House, our residents can stay up to 2 years. And that's where we really try to make that transition from emergency shelter to permanent housing so that they will succeed once they're living on their own. And we work on life skills and educational issues and just hoping to give them all the tools they need to make it.
Yeah, to be self-sufficient,
Correct.
independent, and healthy and on their own again.
Absolutely.
It's phenomenal work. We thank you so much, Michelle, for everything you do at the Abused Adult Resource Center. We have to take a quick break, but before we do so, join us at United Way's Pancake Breakfast, October 26th. It's at St. Mary Central High School. Mark your calendar today. Also, if you're looking to get more involved, if you have questions, comments, or suggestions, go to our Facebook page. We are at MSA UWay. So find us on Facebook. We are oftentimes posting needs from agencies like the Abused Adult Resource Center and also local schools and community members. So join us. We will be right back in just a couple minutes on United Way's Community Talk and Super Talk 1270.
Right now it's 52.
Get the app called Radio Pup for your iPhone and take us everywhere you go. Bismarck and Mandan's own Super Talk 1270.
Welcome back to United Way's Community Talk. I'm your host, Jena Gullo, MSA United Way Executive Director. We just had a really good conversation with Michelle Erickson from the Abused Adult Resource Center. We just feel that in light of the recent NFL stories from Ray Rice and Adrian Peterson being at the center of attention, it's really bringing a lot of awareness to issues that are important to us, domestic violence and child abuse, because it happens, and it happens too frequently right here in our own community. The past year, the Abused Adult Resource Center has served 1,163 new victims of domestic violence. We also know that in our region, there have been 771 cases of child abuse and neglect that have been reported. So what can we as a community be doing about this? We have Tim Hathaway and Melinda Ogundape. Did I say that right?
Very close.
Ogundape.
Yes.
Yes, I did it. From Prevent Child Abuse in North Dakota. And so I thank you both for being our guests today.
Thank you. We are glad to be here.
Yeah, tell our listeners what you do at your organization. Give us an overview.
Yes. Prevent Child Abuse North Dakota is really a community development organization. So when we say community development, we're really talking about how do we engage community members across the state in this work of prevention. And so we'll talk about prevention just a little bit more. We're really interested in providing resources and tools and the sort of know-how to really engage communities to get some of this work done. What we know from our office is that we can't prevent child maltreatment everywhere all the time. What that means is that every person in every community across the state really needs to think about, how can I be a part of this effort? How do I protect children? How do I make this the best, most safe community for the kids that are growing up here?
Well, it's interesting that you say that. I do foster care.
Great.
And
okay.
yet, so that is a reactive way in many senses to, helping children who have been physically or sexually abused. However, with United Way, I feel like there's a lot that we as a community can do, and it empowers me to be on the preventative side of the coin. So even as a foster parent, I feel that there are a lot of things we can be doing with our own children that might prevent future abuse or abuse by others. And so as a parent, what are some things that we can be doing?
Yeah, great question. So first of all, be in touch with your kids. We hear that a lot, but that's really a critical piece of this. When we think about the profile of child abuse that's happening, and you mentioned the cases in our area, that there are over 700 cases just in our area in the last year. So a lot of abuse is about things that are happening to kids inside of the family structure. Mm-hmm. And
And that's the majority, isn't it?
And that really is the majority.
People are often
Yep.
surprised at learning that.
Yep. And so there's been a lot of training in the history of this work that was about stranger danger. But what
Right.
we know really today is that it's really more about protecting kids within your own environment. So it's those friends and family, and really providing supporting environments. So when we talk about what can parents do, first of all, it really is about checking yourself, your own stress level. So where am I at in my life? What's going on for me? Am I reacting in ways that are over the top? Am I saying cutting things? We don't talk about emotional abuse quite as much, but am I interacting with my kid in a way that gets them to engage with me in meaningful ways so that we stay close in our relationship? So that's a big part of it. We also talk a lot about those family members that are around and about us. So when we think about grandparents, when we think uncles and aunts and family friends, being a good support to a family that may be going through a stressful time is really a critical way that we prevent bad things from happening to kids. Because when parents get stressed out, we know this, it's good evidence behind that. When parents get stressed out, when there's a lot of pressure on them, then that's the point at which maybe they make mistakes with kids. They say something, they do something that hurts a child. So looking for those stressor signs, taking care of yourself, and then being there for your family in ways that are meaningful.
So I imagine, when I do foster care, I live alone, and it's more difficult being a single parent than I imagine if one was married and had a partner to assist in to de-stress and to, have some time away from the kids and to really, be able to stay at work later if you need to stay at work, to have that partner there.
Yep.
So is child abuse and neglect, is it more common with single parents? Is it more common with lower income folks that maybe don't have the right supports, or is it across the board? I don't know.
This is one of the stereotypes that we get caught up in as a society. We always think, well, it's somebody else, it's those people over there. But really what we know about child abuse is that it really crosses all socioeconomic areas. It really crosses race and gender.
Sure.
So it's hard to say, well, it's those people, because it's really our problem as a community, and we all have to be thinking about it. And I think especially as we look at some of the challenges with internet things coming online, kids are exposed to a lot of stuff. So if you think, well, my kid is insulated from this,
right.
That'll never happen to us. That's not really what's going on. In fact, just recently, there was a case where a couple of young kids who are bright kids, they're really doing great in school, outgoing, they're in sports, but it came up that one of those kids actually had been sexually abused by a close family friend. Wow, rocks the community. But the point is all of us have to pay attention to this. All of us have to be in touch with the kids around us, because there's really no guarantee that you're completely insulated from this issue.
Well, and the work that you do affects each of us, because we, at United Way, we support a lot of anti-bullying programs. We do restorative justice. Right. And we've learned that children who have these traumatic experiences in their past, they have a certain number of these experiences, they're going to be more likely to bully or be bullied at school. Right, so if you think it doesn't affect your child, absolutely affects the environment in which your child is going to school, or it could directly affect your own child. But it also affects our community and the costs on our community. Talk a little bit about the savings of preventing child abuse.
Right. So we talk about adverse childhood experiences. There's been some fantastic research done in this area. So looking at what happens for children when they are young, so the negative experiences that come into their life, if those experiences aren't mitigated. And by mitigated, I mean if they don't have supportive family that's there to really talk them through that and really support them through that, or if they don't receive the sort of services that they may need from the broader community, and that could be, a pastor that's there to step in, that could be, that extended family that we talked about that's so important. If they don't get that kind of support and those adverse childhood experiences are left, then that translates into some real impact in terms of their social functioning, in terms of their health function. And we've seen that later in life, they begin to experience disease, chronic diseases, obesity, problems with heart, with liver function. So there are a lot of implications of that. That's where we see huge cost impact. There's some good track, if you convert this from $1 spent in prevention, translates into something in the neighborhood of about $14 saved for the community overall. We a lot of times in terms of public policy, it's hard to convince people that, well, if we invest $1 now, then we're going to save. We do that in our personal lives all the time.
Exactly.
We'll say, man, I see this. I'll invest now and then I'll get a payoff later on. Public policy, that's a little harder sell. So I would encourage people to think about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes it's difficult to connect those dots.
Yes.
But what we found is that children who experience child abuse and neglect are 9 times more likely to be involved in criminal activity later in life.
Yeah.
And how sad is that? That the trajectory of their lives are almost predestined if we as a community don't take a proactive stance against this. We want to learn a lot more about the work you do, a lot of the very good programs that you have in our community. We will be back in just a couple minutes with Tim Hathaway, and we want to hear from you too, Melinda Ogundepe from Prevent Child Abuse North Dakota. Before we go on break, we do want to remind you we do have some events at United Way coming up. We have pancake breakfast on October 26th at St. Mary's Central High School. We hope you will join us. It's a free will offering, and we have a pancake eating contest for a lot of our sports teams and board presidents. If you're listening out there, get involved. We also have our employee campaigns going on, where we're going into businesses all around the community. We were just at Mandan Public Schools this morning. We're invited into American Bank Center. Gate City Bank is one of our premier sponsors. We'll be hearing a little bit more from them. But join us back here on Super Talk 1270 to learn more about Prevent Child Abuse North Dakota.
Right now, 52.
Your news leader, weeknights at 6 and 10. Super Talk 1270.
Thanks for joining us today. We've been talking about really important issues in our community: domestic violence, child abuse, neglect. We have with us today Tim Hathaway and Melinda Ogundepe.
Very
from
good.
Prevent Child Abuse North Dakota. Melinda, talk to us a little bit about the programming that you do at Prevent Child Abuse North Dakota.
So one of our major programs is actually Child Abuse Prevention Month, which takes place in April. And for that, we actually have grantees that we extend applications to. Community organizations apply. And we offer funding as well as brochures and promotional items, and we support whatever activities they want to put on for Child Abuse Prevention Month. A lot of organizations will do walks or carnivals or summits, and in tandem with Child Abuse Prevention Month activities, we also have a program called Caring Communities. And with that, communities can apply for recognition, basically, and they get media and supplies from us, and basically it says that this community works to prevent child abuse in their community.
How exciting is that? Is that any community that's eligible throughout this entire state?
Yes, it is.
So who was last year's winner?
Last year, Tim can tell you exactly who, I think.
We actually, Charles Hall Youth, and when we define community, we really do that fairly broadly because we believe that communities happen all over the place. So that could be a neighborhood.
Sure.
That could be a whole community who makes this commitment. It could be an organization that makes the commitment. So we had Charles Hall from here in Bismarck, and we had some other winners across the state too. But the point really for that is how do communities think about their commitment to prevention and to keeping kids safe in their space.
And it has to be an intentional thing that we do.
Yes.
You know, I do have a couple questions, just especially for people listening out there. What are some of the warning signs of abuse and neglect? What should people be looking for?
Yeah. So, again, there are several different types of abuse and neglect. So there's sexual abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, and neglect. Neglect actually in our state is more than half of the child abuse reports that we get. So when you're looking at a child who's being neglected, you're going to see things like, here's a kid that never seems to have the right clothes. So it's freezing outside and they don't have boots or mittens or those kind of things. It's the kid who always and forever is hungry and never gets enough to eat. It's that kid who really will walk up to anybody at all, and they're outgoing kids all the time, but it's that kid who doesn't seem to have boundaries, good boundaries about who should I trust and who shouldn't I trust. It's those kids that really are not well connected in the community, that don't have a social network, who aren't able to go over to people's friends. So that's neglect. When we talk about sexual abuse, you want to look for very stark changes in a child's behavior. So have they been happy and outgoing, and all of a sudden, wham, they're quiet and morose? Or the other side, they've been really a quiet kid, and all of a sudden they're just exuberant and going crazy and doing all kinds of stuff, almost manic. Other things that we want to look for are physical signs around sexual abuse, in terms of, is there bruising that showed up? If it's a child who has something going on in their genital area, bruising or lacerations or anything like that, that certainly is a sign. Kids that come home with unusual names for body parts, so all of a sudden they've got these new names. If they start spending a lot of time with a new adult friend or a new friend, and there's a lot of child sexual abuse that is peer-to-peer kind of abuse that's happened. So a kid gets hurt, and then they don't know what to do with that experience, so then they're playing that out, acting that out with other kids around them. So those kind of things, new, unusual friends that you haven't heard about, pay attention to those.
And so if you might suspect this, or even if you don't, and you want to start that conversation with your child, how does that go?
Yeah. So again, this is back to what I was saying earlier about stay close to your kids. It's critical. Kids, sometimes we get lulled into this sense of, well, they're busy playing their games, or their videos, or listening to their friends, but kids really need adults in their lives who are tuned in and paying attention to what's going on. That's about really spending time talking. So look for what they're interested in. Sit down. Don't be afraid to ask tough questions, and be ready to answer tough questions too. Kids see through our adult mishmash when we don't want to really answer, but kids deserve good, clear answers about their questions. So I think being willing to sit down and say, hey, tell me about what's going on with your friends. Tell me about what's going on with you. I noticed that you seem really a little grumpy right now. Talk to me about that. What's happening? I think also it's important to, as I said, find ways into kids' lives through what they're interested in. So to talk about their activities, their friends, their video games, find out what's going on for them. Be curious, ask questions, and give good, real answers to your kids.
Great advice. Great advice. What can the community be doing to help your work in prevent child abuse in North Dakota?
What I love to say is be a really good neighbor. That sounds a little fluffy maybe, but caring people protect kids. And so if you can be that family member that steps in and says, hey, I see you're going through a stressful time. what can I do to help you? If you're that neighbor that says, you know what, I know things are stressful, I don't want to butt in, but is there something I can do that would help right now? It is absolutely something that communities can get together and start talking about. So it's when you're out in that book club with your friends, or when you're sitting around having fish on Friday, or whatever you're doing, to take the time to talk about, how do we protect kids here? How do we make it safe for kids in our community?
Wow. Tim Hathaway, Melinda, thank you so much for the work that you do in helping to keep our community safe, but also in mobilizing our community. Thanks so much, Tim and Melinda from Prevent Child Abuse North Dakota. We'll be getting together soon, I hope. We are moving on to talk with one of our premier sponsors that helps make this incredible work in our community happen. Steph Antone, nice to have you here from Gate City Bank.
Thanks for having me, Jenna. Appreciate to be here.
Well, Steph, I feel like we're good friends because of all the support that you folks over at Gate City provide to United Way, and you're one of our premier sponsors, so we do highlight you with some of those dollars in the community to say thank you, but then a lot of those dollars go directly to the services that we provide. So thank you for your work. How does Gate City get involved? What do you do during your campaign?
Well, Gate City does a lot of different things. Gate City supports United Way because we believe in investing in our community. We have a strong presence in our community with 4 branches. Therefore, by supporting the United Way, we are helping community customers and our employees.
Well, it's true because you help to get them more engaged and involved. You've done food drives for our United Way backpack program. You've actually delivered backpacks and packed them for us in the past. So thank you for not just getting your employees involved, but all of your customers, because it really shows that you do care about the community in which we all live.
Definitely, and that's one of the nice things about working for Gate City Bank. I'm very grateful. They not only encourage us, but they support all the staff in their efforts to be part of the United Way.
And so talk about, for business owners out there that might not know what an employee campaign is, tell us how you orchestrate it at Gate City.
Well, the employee campaign is a way for all the employees to get together for, the good of United Way, raising funds, awareness, also getting them involved in the community in different programs that they do. But, for example, right now, our employee campaign committee is meeting this month occasionally, and we have our night where we get together at the end of October, and at that time we play all kinds of different games, answer questions. We also have employees fill out forms to donate monthly out of their paychecks to make it easy and convenient. So a lot of the packages where they can win prizes are things NDSU tickets, UND tickets. We have taco in a bag, balloon pop, bingo. It's definitely a lot of fun to get everyone together.
Well, and it's got to be good for morale. That's the comment we hear from a lot of the bank presidents and your VP, Mr. Greg Elwine, that people enjoy the opportunity to give back and they have fun while doing it.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And even in the past, our CEO, Steve Swantek, has actually came out to Bismarck for our United Way campaign night.
I remember that. He's such a nice guy, very dedicated to the community, and he upped his corporate donation that same night. That was just a few years ago. So we appreciate his support. Even though you're based in Fargo, you are very much a Bismarck bank. So thank you so much, Steph, for everything you do. Anything that we can do to help your employees out there at Gate City?
We'll just have you come talk and speak to us at our campaign night so you can insight a little bit more on everything that you guys do.
Gosh, Steph Anton from Gate City Bank, one of our premier sponsors for United Way. We thank you so much for you and all of our other premier sponsors. You can look online at msaunitedway.org to learn more about our sponsors and different sponsorship opportunities. And we absolutely would love 10 minutes of your time if we could come in to meet with you. If you're a business owner out there, you're wondering how to make the biggest bang for your buck, how to give in the most efficient and effective way, solving community problems, filling the most important gaps. United Way aspires to be a reflection of our community, and that's you right there listening to us today. So join us. Go on Facebook.com/MSAU Way. Give us a call, 255-3601. And join us in 2 weeks and Super Talk 1270. Thank you to Town Square Media. We will see you in 2 weeks.